Hi, guys. So, welcome. We are back for your Monday mojo and your motivation resets. We are on episode 47 of the Change School TV. And I am super pumped to be here tonight because we have the guy that we've been collaborating with, doing the thing, Nemo Ashong. And so tonight, we're really going to be talking about integrating insights for that change and to help us navigate change. It's more of like an Ask Me Anything session tonight. But before we get into that, we've welcomed Nemo before. You have heard from him and what he does at Enjoyment. And, we are collaborating with Nemo way more over these next few months. So you will be seeing him and his face shining our Change School TV a lot more over this next quarter. And I'm really, I always get excited when Nemo and I can have a chat. And these days it's been a lot more virtual than in person, but I know it's going to happen a lot more in person. But tonight's session, we're episode 47. It's all about integrating insights, and we're going to just have fun with tonight's session. So for those of you that are watching, if there are any questions that are going to come out, or whilst you're listening to us and some of the questions that we're answering, feel free to pop it into the comments and, be engaged, share. If you know anyone that's going to have value from tonight's session, always share the love, share the change. The more people that we can reach, the better. So Nemo, I'm going to pass the mic to you and I'm going to let you do your own fabulous intro and then we can take it from there.
Awesome. Hello, humans of change. How are you? Nemo Ashong here. And, I am really excited for today, Grace. It's something that's been on my mind. And, we were talking about integrating insight. And I was asking myself the question, what does it really mean to integrate insight? So I wanted to break that down first and foremost for you all to get a chance on it. So we're going to be here. This is going to be a fun session really based on Q&A and such. And what you're going to get from us is a bit of our outsights, right? These are things that we've experienced that are insights for us that we're going to be sharing to you. But we recognize that it will be an outsight for you. And by outsight, it means that it's coming from outside, coming in. The real benefit, the real key, the real thing around insights is that it comes from within and then moves forward. So with everything we say today, we're going to invite you to find your own insight in it, right? And to find a way for you to integrate that for yourself. We don't have to have your answers. In fact, to tell you the truth, I usually have my 5 agreements. I love to bring them into this conversation as well. And Grace, if you don't mind, at the end of this year, on behalf of the Humans of Change, maybe you can accept the agreements or challenge them. That's going to be fine, all right? So I'll go through all of them first. The first is that I'm going to hide nothing and hold nothing back. I'm here to serve rather than please. I have a track record of having life-changing conversations, and I'd love to keep that possibility open for today.
Love it.
Yes. So can we go with those 3 for now? Would that work?
Yeah. Okay. So can you tell me them again? And I'm going to write them in the comments as you repeat them. So just I've got them. Everyone can see them when they're signing it.
Absolutely. Here we go. And I'm going to slow myself down here to give us a little bit more room here. Firstly, I choose to hide nothing and hold nothing back. Is that okay?
Yep. Absolutely.
I'm here to serve rather than please. And as a recovering people pleaser, that one is major for me. I'm going to be saying the things that we may not necessarily hear, but if I feel it's going to be in service, I'm going to put it out there.
Amazing. I'm here to serve and not to please.
Yes.
Love it.
Third one is I like to keep the possibility of having a life-changing conversation, a life-changing experience here.
I like to keep the possibility of having a life-changing experience / conversation, right?
Yeah.
Amazing. Okay. Yeah. Love them. And I agree. I think those are really good agreements to start with. and for everyone to sort of stay on the same or start on the same page.
Awesome. I'm actually going to add one more if it's okay with you, Grace. And this is something that I do in my coaching that I call the brag zone. And I don't know how it's going to come into play for today, but I feel it'll be safer to just put it in there. And in the brag zone, what generally happens is that for this conversation, neither me, you, or anyone else that has any comments in there needs to worry about coming off as being too arrogant or playing a humility card or like kind of apologizing for who they are or reducing their light in order to make others feel okay. All right. And this here is really born not out of the place of like, hey, we just want to like, put on our peacock feathers and just like shine. Yeah, that's really fun. But in a lot of these things, we're going to be talking about some of the questions that I've seen come out already, like without the ability to actually embrace, without the ability to say, these are all the great things that I've done. And without the ability to really have that in there, we're not really going to be able to have the fun that we want to have. Is that all right?
Absolutely. And I love it. I think on that side, it's also just trying to have gratitude and look at things with that abundance mindset, right? What we've come with, what the strengths, all the beauty that we have in us. So we're looking at it from that side. And, knowing that one of the conversations we had with you was all about unapologetically yourself, I think that makes complete sense as well.
Awesome. All right, cool. So I'm really excited to get into these questions. I think I'll put out something that I've seen, that I saw come through as a bit of a theme there, Grace, with the questions that we saw. And, we're talking about integrating insight, and there really seem to be like two really big themes here. And I'm excited because we're going for it. The theme of self-doubt and the theme of fear. And it really got me thinking around kind of like how I look at my life, and some things that came up there. So would you mind if I share just a quick thing on that real quick?
Well, go for it. I'll share the questions after. It's always good to start with a little story. All
right, cool. So you may or may not know this about me from the past sessions that I've been on here. I've had a history of being an actuary. And after I was an actuary, I then made a career change to go work in tech for a number of years. It was 2 years of bliss there. I got involved in diversity and inclusion and found more about the global community and such. And then I made another career change as my wife and I moved to Asia and Singapore to start this part of our life. And that was really to really embrace being an entrepreneur. And even within that, there were pivots and shifts and changes that all occurred just within weeks of being here. And all throughout that time, really, I would say since I was 17, I've had this one sentence that has kind of driven me forward and held me back. That sentence is, I'm not supposed to be here. I'm not supposed to be here. And it's interesting because the sentence comes off both as a sentence, like a grammatical sentence, but also like a prison sentence at times. Like I just never really felt like I'm supposed to be here. And, for me, there's this consistent back and forth of, wait a minute, how did this end up happening? How did I end up going to this school? How did I end up in this job? There were so many other people who have more experience than I do, or who actually set a plan out for this, who came to themselves and said, wait a minute, like this is exactly what I want to do. And a lot of my things just seem to kind of land in my lap, I think it's something that I've realized time and time again. I have this sentence that keeps going by. I'm not supposed to be here. I want to put that out there because we're going to be talking about self-doubt. We're going to be talking about fear. And what's been interesting has been the lens and the evolution of what that sentence has meant for me. At first, it was a place where I don't belong. And I have to do whatever I can to fit in. This is where my people pleasing really started to get great. I'm not supposed to be here. Well, what are they doing? Okay, here's how I fit in. Eventually, it evolved to another level where it was, I'm not supposed to be here, but I feel so confident in myself. I know what I'm all about. And you know what? I'm not supposed to be here, but I am here. What am I going to do about it? Who can I represent? What can I make happen there? That was really the first shift of like really owning the leadership that I take on and moving in here to navigate it and lead in my own change. And I'm happy to say, but it's also kind of scary because this is happening right now in real time. Just last week, I realized that there was another evolution of this for me. And to realize that I'm not supposed to be here is actually my compass. If I am, what I found is that, to be honest, I was getting bored. Everything was exactly where I was supposed to be. And I realized that, like, wait a minute, why is this? I have everything that I want, more or less. What's off? And I'm like, oh, this is exactly where I'm supposed to be. Like, there's no surprises. If you plan my life out over the last year from New York to Singapore, boom, you would see me here, you know? And so that evolution now has come to, oh, wait, that's my compass. That's the place that from now on, I'm going to make sure I find myself and I put myself specifically in places that I am not supposed to be. I'm having conversations with people that I would never have had conversations with before. I'm being invited to things that I wouldn't have been invited to before because I'm putting myself in places that I'm not supposed to be, and it feels great. So I want to set that up there and really look into this idea of what might be your compass throughout this year. I think I'll probably have that as a bit of a stance as we go through here and see how we might explore things through the compass lens as we go on. But I wanted to set that a little bit as a context. We'll see where the conversation goes. But let's start out there and to see where we take things from there.
I love it. And, Sol and I are probably both unconventionalists. And there's definitely, times I know between ourselves as well, where we just have gone down and we're like, okay, or for me, when I set up my first business in Singapore, it was like, all of my friends are in traditional, roles or work. And here I am doing the complete opposite. And everyone's sort of asking, what the hell are you doing? So I think, with that question of where do you feel you're not supposed to be, right, is a good one to sort of start off. And it doesn't mean we have to follow in the path of everyone else. But that takes a bit of confidence, which we're going to touch on a little bit, and courage, right? So, that brings us to the first two questions. So just to give a bit of context, we reached out and we have a community of about 700 plus career shifters in our free Facebook group. And, we get a lot of questions when people first sign up to the group. And when we reached out and we asked for questions around what are some of the most common ones, because we really want to start, this dialogue around some of the most common ask me anything questions that people have when they're going through or navigating through change and transitioning and how to thrive. And so tonight's session, we're going to share some of those questions. And we're going to start with the two first questions, which is one, how do I build the confidence and courage to change? That is a big one. And two is, I don't know which direction to take. There are so many options and I'm a little overwhelmed by it. And also the uncertainty of whether I've made the right decision or not. You could say doubt. So I think that those two questions are really going to fall under this hat that you were talking about, Nemo, around self-doubt. And then we can touch on the other questions which fall under another hat, which, we have talked about and touched on previously, but I think it's always good and something that is constantly coming up. So what do you say to those two questions?
Okay. Ooh, what I say first is thank you for playing. This is the real game. And I think the first thing here is you're not alone. You're not alone. Generally speaking, the feeling of like, for me, it comes out, I'm not supposed to be here. Like, what am I doing here? Who am I to? I have like those kinds of thoughts come out all the time. So know that you're in good company. There's a reason why these questions were selected. They come up a lot, right? In terms of building the confidence and courage to change, right? Let's look at that one there. I think the two things there and it's interesting when it comes to self-doubt, but the two things that come up around confidence and courage is this for me. The first one is that I look at confidence as a result and not a prerequisite. So confidence is a result, not a prerequisite. What that might mean is You know, a lot of times we'll sit down and we'll say, okay, I wish I had the confidence to go and take X, Y, and Z action. You know, I wish I had the confidence to make this change. I wish I had the confidence to speak up. And what I've found is that this actually ends up working a lot of times in reverse. When we speak up, the confidence is built. When we make the change, the confidence is built. So this idea here, when we take the action, the confidence is built. So confidence is a result, not a prerequisite. And being able to start from that there. So in a sense there, looking at this question as it is, this question itself. And last time I was on here, I talked about like kind of up leveling and asking more empowering questions. As it is, this question is not going to serve you to the extent that it really could, right? It might, a question that might fit this here and help you take action might be like, what's the action that I need in order to build my confidence? Or if I had all the confidence in the world, what would I do next? What would I change first? If confidence was a result, what would I do then? Yeah, Grace, I'd love to get your thoughts on that.
Love it. Sorry, I'm just typing away as you're saying this so that I can also share. But I think that's so true, right? Confidence is a result, not a prerequisite. And I know that, you know, for me along my own journey, I didn't have, I mean, I probably have had confidence in there as I was younger, but you do lose confidence as you grow up, for whatever reasons. And it's true. Like for me, I think the more I said yes to things, even though they were totally outside of my comfort zone, the more I became confident in that area. So for example, I used to hate public speaking, but I made an agreement for myself that I would just say yes every time anyone asked me. And I would probably hate myself afterwards. But you know what? I just stepped up. I just did it, whether or not I was really bad. I'm still not great, but it constantly builds my confidence each time I say yes. And I think, you know, that then allows you to, or allowed me to also own who I am, rather than feeling I had to follow a TED style script of what I should do, or a Steve Jobs style, you know, presentation. It just built my own confidence of how I present, how I public speak. And, you know, I think that idea of confidence is a result, not a prerequisite, is so spot on.
Yeah. And it's interesting, Grace, because I'm going to enter the brag zone here on your behalf here. I've gotten a chance to see you speak. And when you talk about your own unique style there, like it does feel great to me. There's some things on there that I've taken off and said like, oh, so this is what it's like to just feel natural on stage. This is what it's like to have this kind of relationship with your content and with your audience there. So it's cool how that confidence has continued to build. There was something here as you were saying that a real story was coming to mind, and it's escaped me for now. And so it might come back here. I feel like I owe y'all. I feel like I owe y'all a story on this one here. It's like confidence is a result, not a prerequisite. Well, I'd love to go ahead and share some of that with you. And I think I'll come back to this one.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, this is a big topic, right? Confidence is something that we could dive into for so long, because there's so many different dimensions as well. And, you know, but it's true. The more you just try, the more you put yourself out there, it builds that confidence, right? And I think that's really something that we all need to remind ourselves about. And, you know, every little bit or every little step that we take to wherever it is that we need to sort of push ourselves to or move through allows us to build that little bit more layer of confidence.
Yeah, I remembered what I wanted to say, and and it's really on that note there, right? It's really on that note. So there's two parts here. So when I say it's a prerequisite, not a result, it doesn't mean that you need to do the specific task in order to have that, to build that confidence, right? So it doesn't mean that like, okay, like if you're the question right here is like to change. Maybe it's about changing your job. Maybe it's about making a change about yourself. It doesn't mean you need to go all in on the big one right then and there. Instead, you can continue to build that confidence in other ways around it. What my mentor likes to say, how we do anything is how we do everything. right? So that confidence continues to build along its way. I'll share with you one story from when I was shifting careers. And the thing here is that when I went to apply from being an actuary to doing the role in tech, I make it sound pretty awesome. Like, it's like, all right, I made this career change. It happened in 2 months. I came in there and I was like, is this the right place for me? I talk about all those things there, but part of that, if I slowed that down, and it's coming to me now in real time, if I slow that down, there was a level of confidence that I did have. And it wasn't, and that confidence had actually come because I had interviewed beforehand. I had interviewed at other places. I had actually gotten offers at other places that I ended up saying, no, this is not the right fit for me. I've been called to final rounds in other places for roles that had absolutely nothing to do with actuarial work and roles that had absolutely nothing to do with each other. It was just, I knew that I can get a job. Now the fun part became applying that confidence toward a job that I actually wanted, right? But it had been built over time by taking actions in areas that were less important to me, in areas where it was like less crucial. I wasn't really trying to look. Someone reached out. I'm like, let's go ahead, let's explore. But I knew so much more about myself, and that confidence got a chance to grow. So I want to put that out there, so it isn't just like a nice little quip, but like, let's make it real. And I would like to ask you, as you go through this and you're thinking about how do you build confidence, what's one place where you really feel like you need confidence right now? And what would that confidence look like? What is the smallest action that will help you feel that you're taking that will help you feel like you're moving toward building that confidence? And then do that, even if it's not directly related. Just do it and continue to build the confidence from there. I didn't talk a little bit. There's two parts of how to build confidence and courage. I'm going to say one more thing on the courage part here. And this is something that a friend of mine said to me, and it's really rang true. And he said, Nemo, in any given moment, all you really need is just 3 seconds of courage. And to be able to take, and if you can, in that 3-second window, if you take the action that you need to, usually everything else comes from there. So that 3-second window of, okay, I'm hitting submit on this application. That 3-second window of saying, wait, hold on. I know what it would be like for me to normally, I know how I would normally react in this situation. But if I gave myself in this 3-second window to just choose a different path, to just start even saying the thing that I wouldn't normally say, that helps you move toward the path that you want. It takes you closer to a place of actually seeing results that are in line with what you're looking for and the change that you're looking for. And guess what? It comes back and it works toward building the confidence. Even if that confidence level is how do I show up more as myself on a regular basis? So that one kind of like talked about the confidence and courage. There's something here around the not knowing which direction to take that I think would also be pretty interesting. There's so many options. Congratulations. You have so many options. This is a great thing. This is an awesome thing. You, first and foremost, kudos to you for being someone who recognizes all the different avenues that are available to you. Right? You this question is coming from a place of abundance. And I know that it might feel like, oh, wow, this is a little overwhelming. But it also speaks to you. It speaks to your ability. It speaks to your willingness to see things from a different perspective. So congratulations. What a great problem to have. And I'm happy that you brought this up. There's so many options and don't know what direction to take. Well, I'm going to offer you something here. And this is something that I've just been recently developing. So Chain School, y'all are the first to hear it here. And it's going to be really fun. Yes. Bringing it to you exclusive. No, but yeah, inside report. Here it comes for the first time. It's something that it's a tool that I use with people that's called the 5 Ps. All right. And the idea about the 5 Ps is to really give you some space from the current problem, the current thing that you're looking at, right? So right now it's like, oh, I'm not sure what direction to take. And if I imagine this in my mind, if my hand right now is like your path, let's say you're at my wrist, you have 5 different options to go to. So how do you choose, right? Well, it's actually pretty hard when you're coming at the wrist and you're just trying to look up and see, like, you can't tell what's going on afterwards. So what I want to do is give you something that gives you perspective, something that rises you above this here, right? And the way that that we do this is through the 5 P's. The P's stand for problem, possibility, purpose, process, and pleasure. Problem, possibility, purpose, process, and pleasure. So I'm going to walk through each of them a little bit so you have a better understanding of that. And then I'll come back to how we can apply this here. So problem. The problem is the thing that most of us, like, we're kind of geared, especially as high achievers, especially as people who are looking to make changes in our lives. We're geared to, like, solving problems, you know, and it's usually something that is really, it's lauded. People give a lot of props to that. The thing about that is that the problem is the thing that's right directly ahead of you, right? So we take time to identify what's the problem for us. Maybe in this case, the problem is I'm not sure which direction to take because I have too many options, right? The second part then, that leads us to the next thing, which is the possibility. This step, the problem, the possibility, if you only even just did these 2 steps here, it would change your game, not just for this one type of question, not just for self-doubt, not for it would change the game and get you much closer to the goals that you want much faster. That second step is about possibility. So that's reorienting yourself as to what is it that you actually are trying to create? What is it that you actually want? Is the problem that you have too many options? Okay, but what's the possibility? Well, the possibility that I want is to go and work in a tech company where I can bring all of my past experiences and be surrounded by a culture of X, Y, and Z, and so on and so forth. The possibility that I want is to be able to come home on a regular basis at 6, 7 o'clock at night and have time where I'm not mentally drained so much that I can just be with my family. The possibility that I want is that I want to be an entrepreneur, and it's important for me to be in a team that's autonomous, or where I can be an entrepreneur, where there's not that much direction. Really taking a step out and getting a picture again. I said, what are you actually going for? And it might be right now, but generally speaking, when I look at possibility, I like to look down the line and say, what am I actually looking for? And it helps do one of these things. It helps orient us. If we're coming in and saying, this is where we need to be, okay, here's the problem. I'm meeting the problem at, one level. It gives us a chance to, like, elevate ourselves and reorient ourselves towards the actual thing that we're trying to get to. Einstein said something along the lines of, we can't solve the problems at the same level of thinking in which we got them, right? This possibility, moving from problem to possibility, elevates you to a point of saying, is this even a problem? Actually, if I really look at what I'm trying to create in the world, what I want for my life, there's only 1 or 2 of these options that actually get me anywhere nearer to that. All right. So now you have a little bit of clarity on your problem, and you've actually isolated what is actually happening. The second part is you've looked at your possibilities, you've gotten some space on it. Now we're going to look at your purpose. This is your why. This is the why behind it all, right? Because you're going to need leverage to be able to take action. It's a lot easier to settle into what we've done. It's a lot easier to continue to maintain the status quo. So yes, there's a possibility of being able to come home every day at 7 o'clock. And there's a possibility of feeling great about the work that I do and feeling that the work that I do has meaning. Sure. But why is that even important to you? Why do you need that? Why not just make sure you have enough money? Why not? So taking some time to really say, what's my purpose here? What's my why behind it? What's the purpose behind this possibility? Is it to be a great role model for my children? To really be someone who has self-actualized, or like has taken control of their life? Is it to give you a step closer toward the dream lifestyle that you've always wanted? Or to help you remember who you really are because you somehow lost that along the way? Whatever that happens to be for you, take a look and say, why is this important? Why is this possibility so important to me? Step 4 is process. This is, okay, given the possibility, what's the process that I can take to get to this possibility? And I use process, not product or like plan. Right. And the reason for this here is that a lot of times when we get to these kinds of things, when we're feeling overwhelmed and such, We don't know what the answers are. If we knew what the answers were, we would just go ahead and take that direction. But we can look into a process to say, okay, a process is a system, a set of ways of approaching something that can be repeated. And each time you repeat it, it might give you different outcomes. But it's an iterative process that can help you get to more of your answers. The other thing about a process is that it removes we talk about process goals versus outcome goals. A process gives you a chance to say, okay, I know that I can call 5 people up and ask them about their experience in each one of these different industries, right? That's something you can do, and so being able to break it down into what actions you can take versus what outcomes you should have, right? So that's the process. And then the last one is pleasure. Like, how are you going to reward yourself? What do you get from all this here? I talk a lot about celebrating and valuing. And if you don't know what the celebration is, it basically gives you another reason to move toward your possibility. So what is the pleasure that you'll get from creating this possibility? So what we did is we went from the problem, we elevated up to the possibility. That's the thing that we're solving for. That's the real thing that we're generating. The initial problem that we had, it's okay. It leads back to our possibility. We go back to our why through our purpose. We set up the process as to what can I do right now that if I iterated would lead me to greater clarity, would lead me to this new possibility. And then how am I going to reward myself with the pleasure afterwards? So those are the 5 Ps coming at you for the first time here.
I love it. I'm just, again, writing them in the comments and stuff, but I love that you've put it so clearly. And it really is like a step-by-step that anyone can take when they're going through any problem, right? But I think the key thing there is like the celebrating part. For me is like we need to do that more in everything that we achieve or that we overcome, or the tiny things from the small to the big. And the other is like looking at that possibility, right? Because it's so true. If we don't know even the slightest bit of where it is that we want to be or who we want to be, it's not even where we want to be, but more who do we want to become, right? And we do know that inside of us. Sometimes it's just taking that time to really sit with it and know that it also doesn't have to be final, right? It's like what we might want to be today or where we might want to be in 5 years can also change, right? But knowing the possibility allows us to kind of see what type of steps do we need to take to get there, right? Who do we need to bring into our community or into our tribe or into our network or whatever you want to call it, right? And what type of a process or steps do we need to take to start moving forward, from now to the next hour to 2 days to like a month or whatever it is, and celebrating along the way. So I love the 5 Ps, problem, possibility, purpose, process, and pleasure. And, I think purpose for a lot of people is so scary. But if you connect it to the way that you said, where it's like possibility, what is that? Who do you want to be, right? Or what do you want to be? Or who do you want to become, right? What are you actually going for? Then it becomes easier to look at what is that gives you meaning or that sense of fulfillment, or what is important to you and what drives you and motivates you and keeps you going, so that when you wake up in the morning, you're like, okay, this is what I get up for. This is doing what I'm doing.
And when I look at purpose, like I look at it like the question why. The why comes up. Why am I doing this? Why am I like? It isn't like what is your life's purpose, which can feel overwhelming, and it also can feel very empowering once you do know, But it's not something that, like, it's in purpose from that perspective. It's like, what's the purpose of this possibility? If that makes sense. So it's like what the why behind it. And you said something there around the celebrating part that we can move on to other question afterwards, but I think that it'd be important to put out. We started out here with the brag zone. We're talking about self-doubt, how to build the courage, how to build the confidence, right? The pleasure is there intentionally. Yes, it's a reward for you to get things done, but it's also an opportunity for you to be able to take in the fact that you created something for yourself. And this is one of the things, it's an insidious thing around how do I say? around not giving yourself credit for what you've done. And what I typically find is that when people don't give themselves credit, the lack of confidence comes along with it. It's just like, it's like a nice sandwich, nice self-doubt sandwich. It's like the bread is action got done. The meat is, I can't attribute it to myself. You know, it's either luck did it, or like, you know, it was the team or whatever it was. Or like it happened, but yeah, like it was just the job. This just happened. And then on the other side of the other piece of bread is the lack of confidence as a result. So just the pleasure is there for, yes, to celebrate, but the act of celebration, you said earlier, the act of gratitude, it just changes things and helps you really internalize. We're talking about integrating the insight. It helps you integrate that into you and say, oh, wait, yes, there was a team. And I was a part of that team. Just that, you know, it's not saying take credit for everything. It's not that. It's just making sure that you don't close yourself out from it altogether.
So true. So true. Amazing. I mean, I think those are like two big questions, right? And we could probably have a whole episode in itself on like, how do I build the confidence and courage to change, or even how to know which directions. But I think definitely what you've shared is a good starting point, right? And what I want to throw out to those, you know, to those peeps who shared those questions with us, right, is if you have more on, you know, what Nemo has shared, or you have more questions around what Nemo has shared, like feel free to pop it in either in our Career Shifters Facebook group or in this video, you know, under the comments side of things. Obviously, you know, this will live on forever. So just, you know, or anyone watching, if there's more that you want to ask around this topic of confidence and courage to move through any type of change, you know, just let us know, and we'll do our best to be looking at the comments over these next few weeks as well.
Awesome. What else we got here? Now right. My shoulders are shaking.
We're going to move to, I love it. We're going to move to the last two sort of questions. So, and this bucket is around fear. And, you know, I mean, gosh, I think we all have different types of fears. So the two questions that, okay, I'm gonna throw three questions at you. Is that all right?
Yep, let's go.
Okay, so how do I identify the right opportunity that will be worth the risk of changing and the potential challenges of changing itself? That's the first. The second is the fear of, I'm fearful of not finding what I am really meant for. Wow. The third question is this fear of failure. So my fear of failure and to commit to the goal of doing something different versus taking a new job based on the skills and experiences I have developed through the years. So the floor is all yours, Nemo.
Hey. All right. So why don't we do this in reverse order for now, and we'll go with this. I love this here, and I think you know, part of this for me is I like to practice being authentic and vulnerable myself, because that's where I see power coming from. So if I'm going to answer your questions powerfully, I need to show up powerfully. Fear for me is it's a thing that has also really been behind it all. You know, I told you my sentence earlier. I'm not supposed to be here. Well, the reason that's part of my sentence is because it's a direct result of the fear that I have, which is really my number one fear in the world is to be alone. My number two is like losing my memory. It's like number one is so much further, it's just being alone. All right. And that's impacted all the decisions that I've made. But similar to how I have found a way to embrace that sentence, I think one of the things around fear that's really interesting is that I'm now using fear as my compass. I now use fear as like, and I know what that sensation feels like within me. I actually have like a little heart twinge. And when I feel that heart twinge, it's like, oh no, I have to say it. Or, oh no, this is really where my next level of growth is. This is what's going to help me build the confidence that I need. In fact, if you look at some of my Facebook lives, I've spoken a lot of things, a lot about inclusion, and I have a different point of view than others. At least I felt that I did. And I used to consistently feel this like pang whenever I would say something that I thought it would contradict. And now I can just say it. Now it's no longer, it was vulnerable at the time. I was fearful at the time, but now it's just here. It's built that internal portion there. So as we look at this here, I actually want to say fear is a great thing. Congratulations on having that. What you do with it could be really fun. What you do with it could really help you lead your change and help you know, like, oh, wait, this is the change that actually matters. There's all these other small things that come up, but when I feel fear around this is the one that's really going to change my life. This is the one that's going to help me know, wait, I'm scared of taking on this new job. All the other jobs feel good. But when I think about this one here, I just feel like such an imposter. I feel like, how am I supposed to know if it's the right move for me? If I'm making the wrong decision on it. Sometimes fear can really be a good place to go. I call it dancing with fear. I don't hide from it. I'm like, all right, come on, fear. I see you. I see you over there. Let's go ahead and dance, right? And let's make something magical from that. So, all this being said, let's talk about like the fear of failure and committing to something different versus taking on a job based on what you had, the skills and experiences that you had. My response to that is actually a question. Like, why would you leave all of your skills and experiences behind? Why would you take all the work that you've done, all the insights that you've gained, all the things that actually make you unique along this place, and leave it in a world that you can't touch? I say bring all of you. Bring all of you to the occasion. Bring all of you to the new job, regardless if it's in the same path or not. I mentioned earlier that I was an actuary and I moved into a tech company. Then I went from being in a tech company to being an entrepreneur. Well, I'd love to share with you a little bit here about, like, if I'm being real about this here, some of the things that I brought from my experience as an actuary that now serve me as an entrepreneur, right? So this is now 2 levels removed. The first one, is that I learned how to be alone and miserable. And what I mean by that is that as an actuary, I had to take hundreds of hours of exams. And so, Grace, you're like, what? Alone and miserable. But I had to take hundreds of hours of exams. So I had to learn, I learned what it's like to go sit in a room and just everyone else is doing other things. And I have my mind set on something. And to work on it, so that I'm taking these exams, and they had a greater than 50% fail rate, right? So less than 50% pass rate. So about 45% was typically how many people who took the exams actually ended up passing. So I'm sitting there for a 3-hour exam. You had to study 100 hours per hour of exam. For a 3-hour exam, I had to study 300 hours to not by myself and not know whether or not I would pass or not. I did not know what the end outcome is. And that taught me, now that I'm an entrepreneur, I know what it's like to sit down, to create a video, and maybe talk to Facebook Live and have no one else on there, or to write a blog post and set it out there and be like, all right, this needs to go. Or while all my other friends, I remember this, especially when I was first starting up, all my other friends are like, hey, we're going to go out and we're going to grab drinks and we're going to do this thing. I'm like, actually, to tell you the truth, I'm so passionate about this here. Like, y'all can go. And they're like, oh, that's cool. Like, you have another exam, Nemo? I'm like, no, I'm actually working towards something different. But I learned how to really be comfortable with that, right? I learned through that actuary experience, as it's applying to me now, how to work with people who don't understand what I do. Like, I now know how to explain what being an actuary is enough. But that whole time, people are like, you really? What is that? Is that insurance, retirement? Like, Nemo, all the things that. So I got used to being like misunderstood or having to explain myself, which kept me, again, like, I learned how to be on the outside and make people start to understand more of what I was doing. And as an entrepreneur, I'm finding that to be even more and more important. Thinking about the various pitches, thinking about different places where I'm going out there and I'm sharing with people what I do as a business. They don't, like, to a lot of people, it's new. So, wow, how lucky am I to have had that experience? And I learned how to program doing it, which has now helped me build websites. Like there's all these different things that have come from that past life as an actuary. And I'm so grateful that I have those experiences because it's put me in a place where a lot of other people come out and they don't have those. They have their own set of experiences and they're using those to help them move forward. But I find for myself, and look, I say this here because I recognize some of these things. But at the same time, I also know, I also do sit down and it'll be like months will go by. I'm like, oh, I used to do this. I used to know exactly how to do this. Why am I not bringing this in here? Oh, because as an entrepreneur has an X, Y, and Z. It's like, no, this whole thing here is about being able to lead it your way, being able to create your change. If you and not let change happen to you. When I listen to other people's stories of success, none of them are exactly the same. No matter how much they try, so like they're not the same. The real thing is that each person figured out their thing. Each person brought in all their experiences to make it into something new. So from that perspective, in terms of committing to a goal that's doing something different, look at it, bring all of who you are to the table and then find out what levels are they the same. You might also find that, like, I was an actuary, I moved into tech. When I moved into tech, when I came in there, the part that I went from was, hey, at the end of the day, I've been building community everywhere I go. You know, so it might look like I'm having different experiences. I just want to get paid now to do the community building versus doing it on the side, right? So again, bring all those experiences with you.
Can I just, I think that's such a good way of putting it. And something we see a lot is that, we focus on the technical skills, or a lot of people tend to focus on the technical skills, right? But 85% of us, right, our makeup is usually transferable skills, our personality, our characteristics, all of these unique parts of us that we bring to the table and that we also add value to wherever it is that we're going to. And, I think that whole notion of, obviously there's things that we can learn and develop more of, especially if we're doing, say, a 360 or 180 degree sort of career shift. But so many of us tend to focus on the technical skills, which is really a small part of us. And when we're shifting industries, all these transferable skills, like if you were to research the number of transferable skills out there, right, it's like in the hundreds. And if you can look at those skills, from the experiences that you've developed, even from childhood or from school, those things are so important for us to take from one role to another and, actually allow us to thrive in new ways. And sometimes those skills are skills that we might not even have been using in the job that we're doing or in our current field, right? But we have them, they've just been dormant. And looking at it from that lens as well, right, is like so often we have so many skills. We're focused on some of the skills. And sometimes in roles that we've been in for a while, we tend to forget about the other skills that we have in our toolbox. And having this moment of change, sometimes it's really about being able to pay attention to what is in your toolbox, right? What are those things that you have used, that you haven't used, that you'd like to use, that you wish you could use more of, that you want to amplify more? It's like a carpenter. He doesn't always use the one tool when he's fixing things, right? But he probably has a whole garage full of tools. So I think sometimes it's also being able to, again, remind ourselves of the amount of tools we have in our toolbox that are transferable. And that doesn't mean that we have to get rid of them, but it's being mindful of what is it that we want to move forward in and what are those tools that we want to take with us.
Yes, I'm so happy you said that there. That just feels so right there. We have so many tools and it's fun then because it's what really ends up being really cool is that you end up going to a place and a lot of times people talk about oh, how can I fit in? How would I fit, check all the things for the boxes, what the role would need and so on and so forth. And what came to mind when you were saying this, Grace, is to be able to come into to come into a place with your own toolbox and they're like, oh, you have a wrench? I've heard of this thing, like, wait, you could just like do this and tighten it and screw it and you're fine. I don't do too many tooly things specifically. So I have like a few different ones in mind, but I think the point still remains that like in doing this here, now it gives you a chance to come in with and say, I have a whole new skill set. I have a whole new part of my toolbox. And it'd be quite, and this is, I think, is actually a place where it feels like, oh, we should be replicating exactly what other people have. And when you're playing that game, you're playing a game of being the best versus a game of being different. And what I have found that it is always easier, and there's far more benefits that come from being different if you can bring that in there. So I really love this toolbox metaphor here. It just makes me think, yeah, like what would it be like to bring a completely new tool that just makes everything easier for everyone else?
Love it. Far more benefit from being different. And I think that is something the world could embrace a lot more, right? So amazing. All right, back to you.
All right, cool. So we had a question about like identifying the right opportunity and not finding out what I'm really meant for. I'm actually going to address both of these fears kind of like simultaneously because I think that there are things around here that would apply in both places, right? So for both of these here, actually, I would recommend the 5 Ps. I would recommend the 5 Ps and going back and saying, okay, what is the possibility that you're looking to create? All right. What is it that you really want? Because like when I hear the questions here, it comes from a place of I'm looking ahead and I can't tell what's right for me, that'd be worth the risk of changing. And I'll be really curious because some of the word in here it's a rich question. So thank you for that question. There's a lot that we can explore there. And Grace, I'd love to go back and forth a little bit on like exploring some of the language that's here with it. But yeah, this like when I think about these questions, it really comes down to me, it feels a bit about the 5 Ps and the possibility that you're looking to create and the why you want from it. So then that came to mind is like, especially when you have these things here, one place that I would also look at is your zone of genius versus your zone of excellence. Going back to the big leap from Gay Hendricks, and generally speaking, if you're making a shift and we're talking about bringing all of your experiences to the table, there are things out there that you're probably absolutely amazing at, right? It's hard at times to figure out like, what are those things that you're really great at? And so what I would recommend in that case is to, let me slow this down. Let me explain what the zone of excellence is versus the zone of genius. The zone of excellence is, there's typically 4 zones altogether. The zone of incompetence, things that you're really not good at all. The zone of competence, the things that if you try really hard, you can get by on. The zone of excellence, the things that you do really well. People actually might say like you did a great job on it, or they're like really surprised that you ended up doing it so well. And a lot of people I find, especially when it comes to getting ready to make a career shift, they find that like they've had success, they're successful in their job, but something's missing. And a lot of times the thing that's missing is that like they don't feel like they're really being utilized for their highest value, because they're playing with their day-to-day activities involve things that are in their zone of excellence. They're not bad. They're just like, yeah, I can do this. It's just not like my unique thing. And so the zone of genius, which I also call like your unique strengths and gifts, that's where you get your 100x. That's where you have, and when I talk about 100x, I'll be more specific here. It's a framework that I use that is around getting 10 times the impact and results for 10% of the effort, right? So when you're in that zone of genius and Grace, like when I talk to you and we have these conversations, like you are so effortless when it comes to having these conversations. It's so cool. It is, and it's not only like cool, but it also relaxes me. I'm in a very different place because of the way that you show up here. part of this here may or may not be part of your zone of genius here, but there's something around the way that you interact with people that creates a space around them to just feel comfortable. You just make it so real and at the same time incredibly professional and incredibly impactful. That is not something everyone can do.
Oh,
Right?
thanks. You know.
No, honestly, I'm happy to share that. I'm happy to have the opportunity to share that. And so typically what happens, I find, is that especially when we're great at, like, we do our job really well, or we've kind of been a person who's like, you know, the promotions have come up and I got it, you know, and they asked me to take on this role, and the next, you know, I was doing it. Sure, you know, like when you've kind of floated your way or drifted your way into something, it becomes kind of hard to understand, like, what is your zone of excellence? And going back to the tactical things, or the technical, you had said, now I'm going to use the word tactical, but technical and tactical, going back to that portion there, a lot of times we look at what our zone of excellence is and we think of it in terms of the tactical and technical skill sets. You know, I was an actuary, so you would think that my zone of excellence was in math, you know, and dealing with math and such. What happens is that, and that's what I thought for the longest, it turns out that actually I had a zone of genius around creating processes. I was better at creating processes and models than I was about the math. I couldn't do the math in my head. You give me two numbers, it's not going to happen. But to know what the process is to convert something from one thing to another, that process there was important to me. And if I really, right now in this moment, if I pull it back a level again, I have a level, my real zone of genius is in translation. I am able to connect one thought to a completely disparate thought and be able to help you get from one place to the other. It came to life through spreadsheets. It came to life through writing down actuarial problems and going through it. It came to life through building programs around community and diversity and inclusion and such. But it all came to, how do we take these two things and translate and help people see that actually you might be talking about the same thing overall? And what's the process for being able to do that? So I want to kind of discern that out there and say, from this perspective, if you're really here, try and find out what is your zone of genius and really go for yourself. If you're really bold, this is where you would see this life transform for you. At this point, when you're not really sure what you're meant for, when you're like not really sure on this portion here, this is where saying yes, you take on the opposite. And you learn how to say no. And unless every fiber in your being is saying yes to do this, unless it lines up, then you can say no. And look, it's edgy to say that because sometimes you're like, no, I'm supposed to go ahead and do this. But if there's something that's, if you can, the distinction that people use is hell yes or hell no, you know, and just leaving that to just be the way that guides you, you know. So if you're finding yourself here, this really to me comes out to saying, if you're having this kind of issue, this is a quality issue to have. And if you are having it, go to the 1% of the 1%, you know, the 80-20, 20% of the 20%, whatever it is, like get really up there and say, okay, this is that rarefied space that I just sing in, and I come to life. That will be my challenge to you on that. Actually, it won't be my challenge. It's not a challenge at all. It's my invitation to you. It's my invitation for you to step into that as it goes along. Grace, any thoughts, anything you would add?
I love it. And I think, you know, that whole zone of genius, I mean, I have read Gay Hendricks' book, The Leap of...
The Big Leap.
The Big Leap. Yes, I was going to say The Leap of Faith, which it probably is about a leap of faith as well. But, you know, and I think a lot of it is about that mindset and really, again, also that state of flow, right? Or that zone of genius that, you know, that you talk about. And I guess for us at the Change School, you know, we've always been like, how do we constantly remain in a state of flow? And I don't, for those of you that haven't heard about the positive psychology concept of flow, you know, it's pronounced by, it was initially discovered by a guy that I cannot say his surname, so I will better not say it because I tend to butcher names in general. But anyways, it's one of the most unpronounceable surnames I've ever found, but I will share it in there. But, it's talking about finding or being in that zone of genius and being in that state of flow, which is kind of that, that area that we're able to reach excellence in a sense, right? And really, I think a lot of the times it might not happen suddenly, but it happens through trial and error. Like I think for myself in the same way where, I didn't really know what my zone of genius is. And I'm still probably uncovering a lot of it, right? But I do know what I love to do and what I don't enjoy. And I mean, for me, community building was really one of the core things that I started with, right? And ecosystem building and really connecting. So maybe more similar to you on a systems level, I love to look at that big picture and understand what the different points are and see how I can connect and bridge gaps or opportunities or people or networks, right? And really building the foundation. So for me, it was a lot of trial and error, and I love that you talked about saying no, because I think I could have done that a lot more before. But, I had that sort of year of saying yes to everything because I had no idea what I wanted to do. So I just said yes to pretty much anything that came my way, that even if I didn't know how to do it, I was like, sure, I'll do that for sure. I was like fake it till you make it kind of person at that time, right? But that also helped to build my confidence, but also it allowed me to know what I didn't want to do, what I like to do, and what I don't like to do, right? And it sort of shared the constraints that I had as well, but also what motivated me and what drove me. So I think, thinking about flow and that zone of genius is like, look at ways that you can trial and error, opportunities that come your way. If it's something that pulls your strings, right? I mean, it's not for everyone, like you said, right? So just really being able to go, you know what, does it resonate with you? Why does it resonate with you? How does it resonate with you, right? And I mean, obviously we can go into paralysis analysis sometimes. So I think it's just being able to also practice on mindset and really being able to practice on being present and mindful and learning how to listen to ourselves, right? Our true inner selves, and taking that time to just sit. And the more we do that more often, the more we're going to be able to make better decisions based on what we feel is right, and what you then feel you're meant to be doing, right? It's that kind of inner intuition. And I think just another thing is like when we're talking about risks, I always like to pose the question of like, we all have such different appetites for risk. So it's really trying to understand like, what does risk look like for yourself, right? Like, or what is your appetite for risk? And some people have different appetites for risks in one thing versus another. I'm probably not so much of a risk taker in adventure stuff, but I'm definitely a risk taker when it comes down to like my career or my work or things like that, right? And I think understanding that and being able to know what is your appetite for risk, and then like Nemo said, where do you want to be, right? Who do you want to be, or who do you want to become? And using those 5 Ps, I think that would really help for sure.
Yeah, it's the thing that my mentor says. It's like a destination or goal. It's not a place to get to; it's a place to come from. And I think like, to me, it feels like we have fake it till you make it. And then there's this other part around like, just be it, just be it now. And know that it almost gets to like, I see this a lot sometimes with people who are shifting, or looking for promotions, where it's like, if only I had the chance, if only someone gave me the chance, and if I got a chance, then I would be able to show them. And it's kind of like from that place, playing from a different place, where it's like, okay, actually, the first thing that needs to be done is, are you willing to give yourself the chance? Are you willing to give yourself the opportunity and say, okay, I'm going to play for my zone of genius in this role that I'm in right now. And I'm going to build up my resume, my CV, to speak to how I operate when I'm in my zone of genius right now. And my next role will just be a recognition of the fact that I'm already doing this. the next thing that I take on, what I'm meant to do, I may not know right away, but I know that I'm honing in and I'm strengthening that unique strength of mine, that unique gift of mine. I may never know what I'm meant to do, but I'll always be, maybe I'm moving toward it. For me, I'm lucky. I'm one of those people who does have a mission. It's to bring together a truly inclusive and empowered world by helping people celebrate and value the things that make them different. Because of that, it actually gives me a wide berth, as a lot of this right now is on mission. This is clearly on mission for me. So I mean, you'll find different ways, but I think that there's an aspect of like really be in it right now and saying and giving yourself the space and bring it into you right from this moment, and then using that and to take you wherever it needs to take you, but being recognized for it as opposed to waiting for the opportunity or waiting for the clarity for it to take place there. It's like, no, you have it right now. And the real thing is, are you going to give yourself the permission to just accept that and to bring it to life?
Love it. And I mean, there's so much in there, and I really hope that, we've covered a lot in today's session, right? And there's definitely more that we're going to be covering over the next few weeks and months. And I think there are two topics that we know we constantly get questions around, and that we're all constantly working towards, right? Or we always come through moments of fears in different times of our lives, or self-doubt when we get to certain points. Even as we're constantly developing ourselves, these are barriers that we're going to come through again and again and again. And it's just reminding ourselves, and looking at what tools we have in our toolbox, or people that we can connect to. So I think for anyone out there that is working through these types of questions or barriers or challenges, like, just know that you are not alone. There are so many others in the same place, and it's like we're all working through it. We are all works in progress, and we are all humans. So it's just, it's just putting it out there to be like, we're not alone. And like, we are so grateful for all the questions that we get. And for you guys sharing your biggest fears, your biggest barriers, your biggest challenges, and we do what we do because of you guys. So, keep them coming. Any comments, questions, all of those sort of things. And Nemo, I just want to say, like, it's always so good to share the screen with you. And just hear your insights on so many parts, because there's so much alignment with the work that we do. And it's so good that you are here today, where you are, where you're meant to be, showing up, and sharing all the things that you have.
Thank you, Grace. I really appreciate this opportunity. And I'm looking forward to what comes next. There's still some resources that were over on enjoyment.com/CSTV to help any human of change now and in the future go back and get access to this here. And do you mind if I just wrap up with one last statement?
Oh, totally. Cool. So I will share that link, enjoyment.com/CSTV, in our comments. So thank you again for that.
I guess the last thing here, I think this actually speaks to a lot of what you were saying. I think I was thinking about these questions, and I was like, if I was going to pull out from all these things, like, what might be some ways that, what tools are you, like, almost in a bit of wrap up here. The first one that we looked at was the 5 Ps, and just generally speaking, going from problem to possibility. Whether you use all 5 of those Ps, that's a lot of tools for you, but just to be able to go from problem and say, wait, what am I actually trying to get to? Grace, you mentioned gratitude. What I have found is that gratitude is one of the easiest combaters of actual fear. When you're feeling it, to put yourself in a place of gratitude, or to really allow that in. What I hear, the body and the brain cannot handle both at the same time. So this is a great tool to have. And to use. There's an aspect of receiving. I think this also comes with the gratitude portion, but this comes in receiving along the things that you've done well, receiving the congratulations, the appreciation, the rewards, the celebration, so that you can take in and build up that self-confidence along the way. So you can have things that work for you. And when you are feeling doubt, to be able to go back and say, well, yeah, well, I've done X, I've done this, right? But if you don't allow yourself to receive it for yourself, then no matter what you've done, you can never get credit for it, and you can't use it to help you along. The self-doubt literally cannot be combated from that perspective. I think there was something else that you just said right here that was, it was quick, but I think is really important. You said something around like saying it out loud, speaking it out to the world. And so like the people who asked these questions, they put it out there. And now because of that, we had an opportunity for us to all connect and to share it with all of you. But they've also got an opportunity to get their answers, their questions answered. There we go. And that came from being able to put it out there. So like, don't be afraid of being vulnerable. Don't be afraid of feeling the fear. Don't be afraid of having the self-doubt. Instead, find a way to dance with it. Speak it out loud. I tell people all the time, oh, I'm working on this right now. This is something I'm not that great at. Now let's keep going. So I just wanted to put that all in a little bit of context, since we talked about a couple of different things today.
I love it. I mean, again, it's so powerful. Yeah, you guys throwing it out there. Thank you so much. If it wasn't for these questions, we'd probably be stuck. No,
I can't see that actually happening, Grace. It just gave us some direction, but we would have had a great time.
These questions just add a lot more flavor, right? But for sure, we have a lot of things we can always chit chat about. But I want to just, again, say thank you guys for tuning in this, this Change School TV episode, your Monday night or Monday morning, wherever you're tuning in from. And there's a few of you that are still watching us live. Nemo, if you want, I've tried to do my best in capturing a lot of the what we were talking about and what you were sharing. So feel free to add or chime in there into the comments. And for those of you that are still watching us live right now or watching the replay, any comments or questions, just pop them in there and we will do our best to answer them after this session wraps up, or even in the next few weeks as the weeks go by. But empjoyment.com/CSTV is where you're going to get all of the awesome juice and resources that you need, from Nemo and what he's doing. And Nemo, I don't know if you had anything else that you wanted to share around what you're doing, if there is any, any exciting events or anything that we can share with our other humans of change.
Yeah, I really appreciate that. There's always something exciting happening in Enjoyment World. But the big thing right now for us is that we are getting ready to launch a group program. And this is a group program for 10 people who are really looking to put themselves out of their comfort zone and step out into the edge of what's next for them, to define leadership for themselves, and to be able to really show up in the world in a unique and unapologetic manner, right? And so all of this here is we're looking for people that are really ready for the change, really ready to explore a goal that scares them a little bit, that stretches them a lot a bit, and to be surrounded by a multidisciplinary group of people who are all going for different things, but at the same time are united based on the fact that they're multi-passionate, multi-talented, empathetic, and energetic. These are the type of leaders that we're really cultivating. These are the types of people that we're helping to support. And there's a group program that's launching out. If anyone's interested, or if anyone knows anyone that is, please feel free to send me a message at nemo@enjoyment.com. It's an invitation only kind of thing. So if it is something you're interested in, just to make sure that we get people who are really, really playing the game. go ahead and reach out. And if you think that you might be one of those people, just the fact that you're thinking that you might be one of those people probably means that you are. So like, let's not have fear and self-doubt come in the way there. Let's give you a chance to actually take action on it and have that 3 seconds of courage to just send a quick message and say, hey, I'm interested. I'd love to find out more. And then from there, I'll go ahead and I'll serve, and we'll make some great things happen from there.
Amazing. Okay, perfect. So but when we wrap up here, I will get more info from you, and we can share that as well. But 10 people, put yourself out there, get outside of your comfort zone. It sounds like something I would love. So yeah, anyways, guys, we're going to share that with you, and Nemo, I will get some more info off you for that. So thank you. And again, thanks guys. I know we've gone a little bit more over, but that's what happens when the flow just happens. So again, awesome. Thank you so much, Nemo. Loved having you. And we'll see you guys next Monday, same time, same place, with our next week's Humans of Change. All right. Have a great week, guys. See you.